A note to our listeners. The views and opinions expressed by our guests and hosts on the BLKFLA podcast are solely their own and do not reflect the official positions or views of any organizations, companies, or affiliations they may be associated with. Any statements made are personal opinions and should not be construed as representing their respective employers or organizations. As always, thanks for listening.
If revolution was a movie, I'd be theme music. Time to ignite what I spit is lighter fluid. Stepping into it, fixed rays, such a glorious design. Marching into the biggest fight of our lives. Time to spoil the
Welcome to the BLKFLA experience. We are the cultural archive for the Black political movement in the state of Florida, where our purpose is to help you reimagine a Florida where Black people are able to live in freedom, equity, and authenticity. I'm your host. We are your hosts, Jamil Davis and
Chanae Jackson.
And we are taking this time to dive into all things Black politics and Black culture. So let's get into it. We are excited that we are about to start a brand new series here at BLKFLA, and that is called Allow Me to Introduce. What does Allow Me to Introduce you ask? I'm glad y'all asked. It gives us an opportunity as the podcast to be able to introduce you to individuals who are currently running for statewide or local elected offices here in the wonderful, and I use that term very loosely at times, state of Florida. And so with that, guys, we felt like the best way to kick this new series off would be to just dive right into it and introduce you all to someone who we feel would be a good choice when you all go to the polls in August as a candidate for the governor's seat of Florida. Yes, we just decided to just jump right in, like just dive in the deep end. Like it's no better way to do this than to dive right in the deep end. And, people are going to ask us, well, how come y'all just didn't start with State House or, somebody's mayoral seat? No, because people are asking us. I can say that with a straight face, and I know that, and I know I'm probably speaking for Chanae as well. People are asking us, well, who do we have for governor? Who do we have for Senate? Who do we have for these congressional seats? And so this is a great way for us to be able to start things out. And we would like for us to be allowed the opportunity to introduce to you all someone that we feel is a great choice for the gubernatorial seat here in the state of Florida. And I would like to pass it over to her for a small, quick introduction of who she is and why she's here with us at BLKFLA.
Thank you. My name is Dayna Marie Foster, and I'm running to become the next governor of our home. I use that word very, very frequently to the point where people probably are sick and tired of it, but I feel it's very important to remind everyone that Florida is our home. And so just the same way that we would take care of the four walls within our own immediate homes, we should be doing the same thing for our entire state. I also love to boast that I am not a politician. I am a public servant, and I have been since I was 19 years old. I'm currently 32. My public service started within public libraries in the historic community of Sistrunk here in Broward County, Florida. I worked at the African American Research Library and Cultural Center for almost a decade. And then afterwards, I transitioned into public education, where I've been a math teacher at the high school level for the past 5 years. My students are very disappointed that I will not be returning next school year because I have said publicly this is my last year teaching, no matter what the outcome is of the election, because there is a crisis that politics are in right now, which is that in the field, we have leaders that are not rooted in the foundation of public service. And so with that being said, we need to hit a reset button, as I call it, so that we can have leaders in place that actually care about the communities that they serve. And that's a big part of what we're not seeing in our leadership is that servitude leadership, to make sure that we're putting the people of this state first before any personal or needs of others that are, well, to be frank, lining one's pockets, from private or big donors. Our campaign is founded on 6 key pillars, as I call them, through my own research and just listening to the rhetoric of the people of our state. And right now, at the forefront is an affordability crisis across the entire country. Even though I think the leading cause of it is federal fiscal policy, it is the state's job to ensure that we have certain things in place to make sure that we're helping our people. The next area is creating economic opportunity. We also want to expand healthcare to as many Floridians as we possibly can that do not have access to affordable healthcare. We also want to ensure that we're addressing the hateful rhetoric and the divisive policies that are in place towards our immigrant population. We also want to have gun reformation within our state. And then, of course, with myself being an educator, we want to make sure that public education is fully funded, not consistently being budget cuts taking place where teacher salaries are affected, schools are not having the financial capital to be able to have the resources to help students with whether it's after school services, digital resources within the classroom, even something as simple as what is it called? Just like books, just things that students need just within the structure of a school. And there's no reason why we should see schools being closed down because of budget cuts. There's no reason why we should see that teachers are having to be let go because of budget cuts. There's no reason why laptops are like falling apart and we can't buy new ones because of budget cuts. So what I have seen just all the way around across the board is that we have a state legislature that approves of a state budget that is curated by the governor himself that currently sits in Tallahassee, but yet we, the people, are not feeling the relief. So it's A, where's our money really going to? Or B, why are we continuing to elect people into office that continue to be negligent to we the people? So we're offering something different than the Florida Democratic Party because they are on the blue wave and we are igniting the blue flame. I tell everybody this summer is about to be lit and hot because, one thing I found that was so beautiful about a small post that I made on social media that went insanely viral was that so many people said that they gained a sense of hope that they had not seen in a very long time, hope that had been renewed and restored. And when I see those comments and I hear those words, I don't take it lightly. It means a lot to me. And so I want to ensure that people know that hope is on the ballot for 2026. And it's with us here at Foster for Florida.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And listen, great introduction and great way
Thank you.
to present yourself as we kick things off.
Can we give a disclaimer before we get started? Because I don't think he gave you a disclaimer about me.
Okay.
So I want to state that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we both do work for organizations that are C3, C4, and PACs. There's going to be that in the introduction when they edit it. Mm-hmm. But I want to state that because there's going to be so much that I say that's probably controversial, but very, very candid.
Okay.
And so I just want to name that. So we don't fool with the Democratic Party.
Okay.
We'll get that. So just, I want to state that to you. I also am a person, I follow you on TikTok. And I'm not sure if you saw the actual comment when they were giving you a hard time about comments that you made related to immigration. And what's interesting is I didn't see it. Even though I follow you, they ran a newspaper article about it. When I saw the article, I went to your TikTok and stated, hey, I didn't even see this actual interview, but I want you to know that you're doing a good job and keep going. Don't let them detour you. And I wanted to be very deliberate to do that because Jamil and I and quite a few other comrades have access to a lot that other people don't because we actually do this actual work. And the one person that's a really close friend of ours is running for U.S. Senate. And so we see firsthand on how they work overtime to exclude her. They work overtime to make sure positive articles are not run about her. They work overtime to make sure. So we are fully aware of what you're up against. We're also fully aware, even with her being an experienced legislator that is a registered Democrat, who is the person that the party should be putting up front, and how she is a party outsider because she fights for the people. And so I want to just be very clear to center that for you. I will also state that I helped to organize amongst like the No Kings and 5051s. And in those groups, in our private groups, they have bought your name up. And people want to know more about you. And they're hoping that once the school year is over, that you have the ability to actually get out more. And so to me, that I got goosebumps when I say that, that speaks volumes. So to help center for you what is happening that you can't see.
Thank you. I will say this. I am everywhere this summer. People would be so sick and tired of me, but that's okay. It is very hard being a teacher and running for governor at the same time. But there's a point that I have to prove. There's a point that we all have to prove, which is to remind politicians that we, the people, are the ones who have the power when it comes to democracy. And as my students would say it, they keep playing in our faces. And so what I tell my kids, even though they feel like I'm leaving them, I say, no, I'm not leaving you. I'm entering a fight in which that I'm fighting for a future that you actually can look forward to.
Absolutely.
One that is rooted in equality, one that is rooted in also opportunity. And so with that being said, because I'm not a politician, and yes, I'm a public servant, and, you know, I'm not the status quo. There is that apprehension from the FDP. There is the snubbing that goes on. But at the same time, I am a constituent as well that's stepping up to the call of action. And that's why I have positioned our campaign so differently than the Blue Wave. And I said on purpose to our team, from a creative standpoint, what can we offer that's blue and different? Because I know for myself, I'm tired of this blue wave. We've been trying to like ride it for the last 30 something years, and look at where we are now, right? The very foundation of our democracy is gone. It's broken. And so
we don't have a blue wave because they're anti-Black as well. So we're going to call a spade a spade. So both parties are anti-Black. And that is the anti-Blackness is why we can't ride the blue wave. And so you're like, to name that, one thing that I hear a lot is that it's difficult for a Black woman to win in the South. We live in Florida. Florida has the third largest Black population. What are you saying?
Correct. So I'm not afraid. A lot of people they meet me and they're like, you know, I'm maybe not what one would expect, but I am very much so rooted in bold leadership. And just to kind of go to the intro where you were saying, Jamil, we started big and started bold. Well, you know, that is absolutely our cup of tea, you know? And so just making sure that we're just being as forward as we possibly can, you know, the institution of just Democrats in general talk about playing, you know, more on the offense instead of the defense. Well, you know, you got to actually roll up your sleeves and get in the dirt and not be afraid. So, that is just something that we want to ensure that we convey to the people, that we are of the people, for the people, by the people. So much to where we've heard constituents say, well, they have concerns as it relates to the environment. So we're making sure that we're posting our comprehensive agenda on our website before the summer hits so that people have more of an actual tangible idea of what we stand for policy-wise. So when you go to any other candidate, they don't have a comprehensive agenda. They just have a summary of, okay, this sounds good. right? And I knew that I never wanted that to sit on our website as the only thing. And as much as people are like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, I'm like, hold on, hold on, hold on. Because as we mentioned before, the political landscape is just ever so changing, and the legal one is as well. So just as we adopt something and we say, okay, this is what we want to propose, this is what I want to advocate for, even as a governor, yes, I intend to be one that advocates for the people of Florida. Then something happens and it's like, okay, well, let's just make sure what we've got actually is like valid. So a lot of times people do come for me online and they try to say that things that I say are not true or credible. And it's do not twist my words to make them sound the way that you want them to. Actually hear me speak or read the captions that are on your screen. You will definitely see what I say versus what I don't say.
Yeah,
I'm going to jump
and
in again. Go right ahead.
no, you go ahead.
And say they're going to twist your words. And there's a few things. One, some are being obtuse on purpose, and some of them are just stupid. And so once we come to realize that I always utilize, and I'll say this a lot. I used to be a person that was very scared to say things like white supremacy, but and it's not white supremacy. They gave it the new term, white narcissism. It is very, it's a scam. And so people believe that they have some type of protection that they actually do not. And the way that it has been sold to them is by them seeing harm being done to other people. So I want to say, don't get in the weeds. Say whatever it is that you say and stick to it. And actually don't even bother trying to clarify, because the people that understand and get it, they will ask for clarification. Other people that do that, I've also noticed when you're making good sense, if you check a lot of the pages, they're actual bots. And there's a new thing, it's called the neo-reactionary movement. And that actually is on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, I have seen that.
And it's a joy to actually see a candidate that's not only utilizing social media in such a positive manner, but also utilizing social media to actually get the accurate information out. And that was one of the things that attracted me to your campaign and wanting to know more about it. You also mentioned that, you know, above all else, you're a constituent and you're of the people. And so, you know, before we dive in, we want for the people to have a better understanding of the person that they are dealing with. And so we have this thing here, BLKFLA, called the BLKFLA Top 5. There are 2 top 5s, and it's very fun. And it, you know, kind of helps us, you know, alleviate the tension, if you will, and just be able to dig right deep into things. So your first top 5, because of the fact that we pride ourselves on being the intersection of Black politics and Black culture, your first top 5 is, who are your top 5 favorite music artists?
Okay, so full disclaimer, my mom was a singer back in the 90s. Like, she never made it big, but she sang. And so I know if and when she watches this, she's gonna be like, okay, what does she say? So I would say for myself, growing up as a kid in the 90s, I gravitated a lot to R&B. So for me, without a shadow of a doubt, despite her personality, her talents are just out of this world. I would have to say top would be Mariah Carey. Behind her, I do love, because I grew up on SWV. So even though it's not like one person is the group, but I grew up on SWV.
Which count as artists.
Yes. Not that I would include them in top 5, but I listened to a lot of TLC growing up as well. But just full disclaimer. I do, because my mom is from Brooklyn. So I do love, I love Janet. I listened to a lot of Janet growing up as well. I have a little bit of like Jay-Z and Nas kind of like embedded within me, Naughty by Nature as well. But for number 4, I don't want to get canceled for it, but this was like during my teenage years. I definitely liked Drake. Wouldn't say Drake now, even though the music is okay now. When Drake first started, like, yeah. And even then, I knew Drake first as like Aubrey Graham on like the Nickelodeon TV show before he became like Drake the rapper.
Shout out to
That's
DeGrasse.
the quotes.
I
Yeah.
was going to say that.
And for number 5, gosh, I don't know, because I like a lot of different artists. I listen to like a little bit of, I think his name was like Larry June. I listened to like J. Cole. Who else? So I think just to be safe, for number 5, we'll go with like J. Cole.
Oh,
Yeah.
and shout out to a
like to go-
gubernatorial candidate that mentioned Larry June.
I love his song. It's like Till Next Time or something like that. It's like a slow kind of ballad, hence my love for like R&B, but it's just,
Yes.
and it resonated with me just because I think I'm at a point in my life where it is just me, myself, and I. So his lyrics just kind of like hit for me where I'm like, maybe next time with, yeah.
That caught me. That caught me. I was like, Larry June, oh man. So our next top 5 is going to be top 5 cultural icons, organizers, or just cultural icons, period, that have shaped you to become the advocate that you are currently right now.
So I'm going to say probably a couple names that are slightly cliche, but I'll save them more so for the end. I do love Shirley Chisholm and everything that she stood for, and myself being an educator and how she just challenged the system and systemic barriers and things of that nature. And I find myself being in a similar position, but from being a constituent and jumping just so boldly to the gubernatorial level. I would also have to say, I wish I could wrap them all up into one person, but we'll say John Lewis. But with John Lewis, I have like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King just kind of wrapped into that as well. Mm-hmm. I firmly stand by getting in good trouble. And I was just actually at an event yesterday here in Miami where I had gotten some looks from people that you could tell did not want me there, that were like city officials for like where I was. I even randomly got like a parking ticket. I was totally profiled because I was in my Foster for Florida shirt. No one paid for parking. Like I have someone on my team who didn't even pay for parking, and they parked the wrong way technically in the spot and they were fine. But I was the only person in that parking lot with that little orange ticket. And so that's fine. Miami-Dade County will pay your parking ticket, but
it makes you feel better. They canceled the whole city commission meeting for me.
Hey, good trouble.
Just speaking truth to power. So,
So definitely Shirley, John, and I think he's just kind of one in a million, but former President Barack Obama, he just is the embodiment of just being a true leader in every which way, shape, and form. I kind of would group Michelle in that as well because she's just an amazing human being and such a positive role model of not just a woman, but a Black woman as well. Even though her quote went viral about, when they go low, we go high. I definitely try to embody that as much as I possibly can and upholding a certain level of tact and decorum as well. This one, he was a music artist, and I would have mentioned him in the other top 5, but I wanted to more so mention him here because I don't feel that even still presently in 2026, he gets enough accolades for his contributions from a political and cultural sense. But Tupac Shakur, definitely. I loved how bold he was and what he stood for and just uplifting our people and giving us a voice. And who would be number 5? Probably 5th would have to be, It's a toss-up between Stacey Abrams. No, there is no toss-up. It would just be Stacey Abrams. I was going to mention someone who's like a current representative here in Florida, but no, it's just Stacey Abrams for sure.
No, dynamic list. Dynamic list. And dynamic time and opportunity with you here at BLKFLA. So let's get right into it. I want us to be able to take a deep dive into what the journey was for you that got you to the place where you made the decision that I'm running for the gubernatorial seat for the state of Florida.
So I would say it's a lot of, not a lot, but a handful of different factors. One might say they're related or unrelated, but I will let the listeners be the judge of it. So after the presidential election of 2024, and we saw how things ended, it was definitely a blow for us as a country, as a society, as a people. And I was just very disappointed. And I just did not understand why we as a country didn't feel that it was just going to be more of the same old from 2016. And the fact that this candidate was speaking so openly about all of the harm that would have been placed on we as a country, I didn't understand why the elections, resulted the way that they did. And at that point, I had said to myself in November of 2024 that I was going to get more involved politically. And so even though currently right now I'm not in school, but I had enrolled back in my alma mater of Florida State University, and I wanted to take classes that were political science. They actually ended up being public administration, more so focused. But I wanted just to understand more about just this discipline, because for the life of me as a public servant, I couldn't understand why elected officials struggle so much with putting the people first and also crafting policy and legislation that are for the betterment of us as a whole and not for the betterment of a subset or a minority that's very divisive and prejudicial and just flat out racist. So going through my studies that spring semester of 2025, and even I believe the summer. And when I got to the summer, I said to myself, okay, who's running for Florida governor? Because at that point now, we had passed the 100-day threshold of this new presidential administration. Things were flying left and right via executive order and then through the House and through the Senate and Congress. Things were just being unraveled and dismantled, and it made absolutely no sense. And so because Florida is Republican-led within our state government in Tallahassee, I knew that our midterm elections for 2026 were going to be very, very important, and we needed to have a candidate for the Democratic Party that was going to be solid enough to be able to pretty much overcome the MAGA movement. Not even Byron Donalds, because he's very underwhelming. So it's what's really carrying him is the MAGA movement. And that's who the Democratic Party has to really rebuttal against, is MAGA. And when I saw that the only person that had really taking any kind of lead was David Jolly. And when I did my research on him, and to see that only months prior, he had switched his political party and he has been a lifelong Republican. I mean, he just had a congressional bid to run for Congress in, I think, U.S. Senate in 2016. And right now that's 10 years ago, but 10 years ago is not that long ago. 10 years ago, we were just in the first term with the president that we have right now, thinking, okay, after 4 years, that's it. We don't have to deal with this again. And yet here we are. So I remember thinking to myself, okay, this can't just be it. So let's just kind of wait. And while I'm still doing my volunteer work with the League of Women Voters here in Broward County, while I'm doing my job as a public educator, while I'm in school learning more about political science and also public administration, we get more so, like I said, to the summer. And I actually attended a regional convening with Black Voters Matters, because League of Women Voters, we do support in a myriad of different ways and other coalitions as well. And so I went on behalf of our chapter and also the young adult committee that I had overseen. And being in that room and to see the presence of leaders of our community and the power that was in that room, and to know that there was a way to ensure that the gubernatorial race would end up being the outcome that it should be for us as a state, it gave me a sense of, well, renewed hope. And I remember leaving and saying to myself, I wonder if I could run for governor. And for whatever reason, it's just something that just stuck with me and it stayed with me. And I did my research because I'm, again, very, very firm about democracy being a representative process. And if we saw that the United States of America could pretty much hire a convicted felon for the second time to run our country, then the state of Florida electing a public school educator to be governor was not too far off. And when I saw that the only requirements legally were a residency and restriction as well as an age restriction, which I check off both. I've been a resident of Florida for over 7 years and I'm older than 30 years old. I said, okay, I'm going to file my paperwork. And it was definitely something that was rooted in a decision of faith, because I'm not a politician. But at the same time, I knew that someone had to step up and say something and do something. And even though people might say I'm just a teacher, there are millions of people who feel and have that same sentiment of something has to change. We have to do something different. And I remember also seeing a congressional candidate, Bernard Taylor, when he had entered his race, and he's a firefighter, so a public servant as well. I realized that we as public servants understood what was happening, and we understood that there was a call to action that was not being met by these politicians, because at the end of the day, they're not public servants. And so I would have to say that he motivated me to make my decision, so to speak, right? As well as conversations like with a former mentor of mine. Like I said, not seeing anyone else step up besides this one person. I know since then, Jerry Demings has he has entered the race. But I'm running for governor, and I filed that paperwork because, like I said, democracy is a representative process. And when we look at the founding fathers of this country, just in that box, won't include the other grander context of it all, right? Which is they founded this country and again said that government should be of the people, for the people, by the people. But yet when we look at our elected officials, they don't know anything about us. I know they don't know my struggle about trying to make ends meet, whether it's paying my bills on time, whether it's making sure I have food in my fridge, making sure that I have gas in my tank, dealing with my struggle being a public educator where I'm teaching my lowest quartile kids Algebra 1, where math is not their first, second, third, or fourth language, where we have to deal with the politics within public education, and we shouldn't have to. I should be able to teach my kids and simply just do that. But instead, I have to make sure that, for example, I'm not calling a student of mine who identifies as trans and says my pronouns are he, his, him, instead of she, her, hers, right? Mm-hmm. We're focused on the wrong things here instead of actually putting forth the policies and the legislation to help us, we the people. And when I also saw that Florida was basically a playground for Project 2025, and nobody was talking about it. I said to myself, okay, no, now is a time more than ever for one of our own to step up and for us to take our democracy back. And all of these factors is what led to me filing that paperwork. And since then, the reception has been positive, I would say. The only thing people are wishing is that I was more everywhere. And I do too, but it's a double-edged sword because, like I said, being an educator for right now in this, until June 4th, my students are my first priority. But once June 5th, hits, it's different chapter. And then also too, just the financial aspect of it all. It's hard because we're all out here trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. And to ask everyday working people for money, it's hard, and I don't take that lightly. And that's why we came up with the strategy where if 1 million people donated $1 or if 500,000 people donated $2, we would have the financial infrastructure that we need so that I'm able to travel across the state, right? And that's not even for like big ads and stuff like that, which I know the competition is probably going to come out with over the summer, because I'm more rooted in the tangibilities of making sure that I'm meeting the people, meeting them where they're at, and making sure that I'm informing them that they do have another option, and they have an option that's actually rooted in solving the actual problems that we are experiencing as a state and as a community.
I think that is phenomenal. I want to ask my question, but before I do, actually want to give some context just on some of the things that you actually said.
Yes.
So one thing that stood out, so that's why I had to walk away from the computer, was to go get my notes, is you actually talked about the forefathers and when they basically started the country and framed it. And I think one thing that we actually don't talk about, because they cite the Constitution a lot, is the two major flaws that were in the Constitution that also helped us get us here. And one is, in the Constitution, the space for oligarchy was actually created. It limited the power of working people to vote away the wealth of the people that were in charge. It included excessive veto points to protect the wealth against the majority. And it said it was from the tyranny of the majority. And getting people to understand the reason for that is the people who wrote the Constitution were they owned property, and that property was people. And so getting people to understand that out of the 55 people who wrote the Constitution, 4 were wealthy property owners and 25 of them owned people. The second issue that we don't talk about, that's a flaw in the Constitution, is the compromise actually with slavery. And it was that basically they still conceded that they had the legal right to own human beings. And then because of that, we the people do not decide what government actually does. And so it's one of those things that I want to frame. Because another point that you made is about the people who are in office in Florida who are politicians. So one, Florida is in, as you named, an affordability crisis. But we have so first of all, this session we have yet to come across a budget or to create a budget, although they are constitutionally responsible by state law to do that. And so they keep going to session, although they run every part of government and failing to come to an agreement. Which is interesting. But even each time they've rolled out a budget, some things I want people to know is, number one, we give away anywhere between $16 to $18 billion per year to corporations, and then there's still a surplus. And so the last budget that they did, it was after they gave away almost $18 billion to corporations, we still had almost a $14 billion surplus. So in wanting people to understand that a part of that is our state legislature, our House of Reps, and our senators, their personal wealth is more than $700 million. And so we have people who are totally out of touch actually governing us. And then that goes to that next point of people who are not, and you've kind of alluded to that, voted. And so there's this research paper that talks about in the country, 89 million people did not vote. of that 89 million people, 14 million were Black people. And then when you drill down in the state of Florida, it was like more than 1 million. And they like put them into 3 categories. And one are the people who are structurally locked out. So from all of the voter suppression, and we see Florida's doing that at a breakneck speed. The others are people who are voting consistently, but are tired of voting because they don't see any value because nothing's changing. And then the other people who've just totally given up on the system and are now, with conspiracy theories. And so I'm asking these things because then as we look at all of these things that are happening, there right now are 42 gubernatorial candidates in the race. And so that means there's a lot of people who are kind of filling some of the things that you named and then some of the things that I highlighted. And so I wanted to give the context. And so my question is, if you become the governor of the state of Florida, what is it that you hope to get accomplished?
So I tell people all the time that we have to be more aware of the current state of our legislature. Democrats are, to even say they're minority is a complete understatement, right? And as you mentioned, it is fully Republican-led. A lot of the issues within our state are enshrined within state law. So what that means is that a lot of the reformation that has to take place does not necessarily reside within the office of the governor. It resides within a balance of the governor, the legislature, and at times even the state attorney general. So for our campaign, we have been closely monitoring races that are up for this year in the state house and the Senate, and also closely watching the AG race as well. I have answers that I say that are rooted in the reality of stepping into a Republican-led legislature, and then a response that's also rooted in, should Florida go blue in the House and the Senate? My job as governor, like if it happened tomorrow, would be to ensure that I'm there as a blockade, to be able to stop the advancement of these pieces of legislation that are coming across the governor's desk and him just signing it and boom, it becomes law. So I think I mentioned this one time when I was even at FIU saying kind of like being a warrior or a soldier, if you will, right? And not just giving over our freedoms and giving over our democracy and giving over our rights as human beings within the state. I'm not going to be lawless like the current president. Furthermore, because the legislature is Republican-led, they would probably never even let me anyways. But what I can do, like I said, is just be that blockade to ensure that we're not advancing down this dark path that we're on right now as a state. However, though, what my intentions are within those first 100 days are 3 things. For me, number one, because I'm seeing what's happening, especially with our immigrant population, and as an educator, I have students that don't come to school. And my colleagues also have students that don't come to school, whether it's their parents can't get to work and they have to take their parents to work because they're afraid they're going to get picked up by ICE, or the parents themselves can't drive the kids to school. Why? Because they're afraid they're going to get picked up by ICE. So my intentions are to issue out an executive order to terminate the 287G agreements, at least at the state level. And that way it will signal to local governments that they can do the same, because state government is a guide and it cannot overstep home rule. The next thing, as the governor has power over state agencies, of course, it would have to be approved by the state legislature. But as an educator, when we see that the board within the Department of Education votes to adopt the Phoenix Declaration, which promotes a specific ideology, one that is not rooted in equity and inclusivity and just a complete knowledge bank, right, in terms of curriculum, that I would suspend those members. And then, of course, like I said, the state legislature would have to approve that. And My next also action would be to appoint heads of state agencies with leaders that have relevant experience. So when we look at the Florida Department of Environmental Protections, we shouldn't have land developers at the heads of these agencies. We should have the people that are well versed within the environment, which are the scientists or the environmentalists and biologists and people of that nature. What we have to ensure is that in every single aspect, in all of these different pieces, we have the right leaders that are in place that have, again, that mindset of serving the community and putting others before themselves, especially when we also look at the state budget. And you mentioned that, and I was like, because, for example, I have a degree in finance. I'm waiting for the state budget to drop so that I can accurately review it, and in a sense, create my own draft or mock-up of a budget so that I can publish that with the comprehensive agenda that we're going to have on our website. But I can't do that yet until, it gets approved. And for whatever reason, whatever DeSantis is making is not good enough for the legislature. And I couldn't even tell you why, because it seemed like the last 4 years, everything was peaches and cream, but I guess now it's not. There are a lot of areas that I've seen in the past budget where they're underutilized. So to save face, they say oh yeah, the fund was appropriated. The money was, designated for this area of the budget, but then it's not utilized. And then when you have this surplus, right? But then let's look at what just happened. What was it, about a year ago, when the government shut down in DC? You had families on the brink of Thanksgiving that were going to potentially not be able to put food on their table for their families. And the governor sat there and did not use funds that he could have from an emergency reserve. So in addition to everything that I'm saying, I also intend on being a governor who leads at least with empathy, to know that the people that I'm serving are simply that. They're people and they're human beings. And these legislators act like we're just objects on a chessboard, and that's not the case. We're real people with real lives, with real problems and real struggles.
So I have a follow-up. So number one, I'm of the opinion that the reason that he did not access those funds was on purpose, because if people are hungry and afraid, they're not going to push back. And that is Chanae's personal opinion. But one thing that I want to ask about is, you mentioned home rule, which we all find significant value in. And when we're doing this actual work, this is the reason that we tell people to get involved. It's not in the presidential election, and not necessarily at the state level, because you have more power locally and at home. So what we have seen with this legislature is things like preemption, that even when things are done locally, they come back and preempt it and say, as a local municipality, you can't do these things. We're now seeing that with quote unquote DEI, that they're passing bills that states that they will remove elected officials in the local municipalities if they violate DEI. Which of course is a code word for Black, which makes no sense since Black people benefit the least, but it's what they utilize to make people feel comfortable with what is happening. And then the third thing that they've done most recently is each time the citizens, no matter party affiliation, have come together via ballot initiatives, ballot initiatives that are beneficial to the whole, they typically pass. Even to the point that when we got the rights of returning citizens to vote back, first they implemented, I call it a poll tax, by stating that you need to pay these fines and fees, but there's not an actual mechanism. All the books are a mess. And so now you're going to try to navigate something. If you really wanted it to be about the fines and fees, you would set up a process to make it easier to navigate. But then they raised the threshold to 60% to make it almost virtually impossible. And the last two ballot initiatives, we weren't successful in getting them passed, but the abortion ballot initiative was the highest percentage of any abortion ballot initiative, and it was a higher percent than any governor or any president in Florida has ever been elected by. And so in response, they've now made it virtually impossible. And so when you see things like this, the I-bans in preemption, now making ballot initiatives virtually impossible, that is taking power away from the people. What goals or what thoughts do you have on what you could possibly do to help help give home rule back to municipalities?
So I definitely would say, again, and it might sound a little bit of like a lost cause, but one thing that I have every intention on doing, should Florida elect me to be her next governor, is to meet with the different legislators, right? And just to really have a certain level of understanding, because I'm not understanding, number one. But number two, hopefully after that happens, then what we can do is come together to ensure that, well, it is a part of their platform, right, to respect home rule. So the fact that they're not doing that, it makes absolutely no sense. The overreaching should not be taking place. What I have found is that it also seems like, because, for example, the governor currently has like the AG in his pocket, the AG is going around and enforcing or interpreting the law in ways that I say are unnecessary. There's no reason, for example, to force a municipality to sign a 287G agreement. We already have things in place at a state law level within our statutes of what we have to do as local government to follow and abide by with like federal law. So signing 287G agreements, that's just bullying, right? In addition, having that coalition there to ensure that we respect home rule allows for these local governments to govern the people the way that they see fit. And what I'm learning going through and meeting constituents where they're at, but also leaders in the communities with here in Southeast Florida, whether it's Palm Beach, whether it's Broward, whether it's Dade counties, the people know what the constituents need. So why would you overstep, right, your whole philosophy of home rule because they don't want the federal government stepping on our toes at the state level? Well, then why are we stepping on the toes of local government with us as like a state? And so it's really about kind of what I said before of just ensuring that the things that we have in place law-wise has to be reformed. And I try my best to convey this to constituents that myself running for governor, and again, should Florida elect me to be her next governor, not just for one term, but for 2 terms, it's really about setting all the pieces in motion to ensure that we're able to actually have the reformation and essentially the revolution that we need. It's here, it's on our doorsteps, and we can't ignore it. And we have to make sure that we rise to that occasion. And so it's going to take a lot. It's going to be some L's, but it's also going to be some W's as well in terms of like this process. And so I intend to work with the legislature to ensure that we have laws in place that, again, respect home rule, that give autonomy to local government. And if the constituents, if the people are making themselves vocal and saying, no, we need help from the state, then that's a different story. But right now, that's not necessarily what's happening. What's happening is that the state is impeding on local government autonomy.
No, absolutely. And I think one of the key pieces or key examples that I could give of our state government stepping on, local autonomy is the referendums that St. Pete as well as Orange County had around rent caps. And,
well, we have a rent control ban at the state level.
Literally. And the reason behind that is due to the previous year, Orange County and St. Pete voting in favor of rent control. And then the very next year, it's like, well, that doesn't matter because now we're going to essentially make it to where nobody in the state of Florida can have any type of
let's name, don't forget the important part that St. Pete and Orange County didn't just wake up arbitrarily one day and say, hey, we're going to put rent stabilization there. It was from the advocacy from us, our organizations alongside the people. Housing has been a major issue related to people. So I don't want it to be lost on people There's a lot of times I see people not fully understanding that this is bigger than just like policy discussions. These are people's lives that are actually in the mix of it. And the people who are actually did the work in the advocacy, many of them were people who were directly impacted by being unhoused. And so for you to come and preempt a local municipality actually doing what the people locally elected them to do, is that's what's been so intriguing. And what has happened is it's also created like a level of exhaustion. So they're throwing so many things at you so fast that people feel like no matter what they are doing, it's not helping. And so it's like it's causing them to back up, and we need them to stand up. So just naming like that thing, that's why I think we're both bringing that up when Jamil gave those examples.
Absolutely. And what are the key things that you just stated, Ms. Foster, is that we are currently in the midst of an affordability crisis. And, like
an insurance crisis, a utility crisis.
My running joke all the time with the kids when they be asking me, can they go somewhere or get something? I'll be like, no, because gas is $4. And that is
I don't know why it takes $60 to fill my 4-door sedan, but it makes absolutely no sense.
None.
And the gasp that I gasped when I saw that on the pump after, and I'm like, look, it's hard enough being a teacher, so.
and so with that, this is also something else that Chanae brought up, as well as yourself. We left out of legislative session on March the 13th without a state budget that under our state constitution is a thing that the state legislature is constitutionally supposed to do. We left out with that. But instead of focusing on a state budget when they come back for this next special session that they just recently had, it's not for the state budget. It's to gerrymander our already gerrymandered, mind you.
They just like not following the law. Like, that's just what it is. Because the maps are unconstitutional per the Florida Constitution. Them not making the budget within the legislative session is also not, appropriate. So, it's just, they just want to just not follow the law.
I want to add another point of reference to that. They increased the legal budget to fight against any lawsuits or things we bring by 260%. So they are fully aware that it is not lawful. The issue is they don't care because the budget that they're utilizing to fight us is our dollars. It's our money.
Yeah. Yes.
And
there's a saying that we have within our campaign team, and we say that if more people understood that we are all closer to becoming homeless than we are to becoming billionaires, then we would have the necessary unity that we need to have across this entire state, because it's so many different moving pieces, right? In terms of the red tape that is being put up against us and the systemic barriers. But at the crux of all of it is to ensure that a few stay at the top while the rest of us struggle at the bottom. That's at the foundation of.
Are you aware that Florida now has the number 3 now in billionaires?
No, I was not aware.
Florida is now number 3 in the country with the number of billionaires that are here.
I mean, I had heard that people were coming here from the other states because of what, was being pushed throughout their state government. And we had a running joke within our campaign chats, like, oh, I hope they don't get too comfortable. Because I don't know if they thought like they could just come here and just have a free access pass. But, I hope they know they're on borrowed time, in the sense of like, it's not, I have no intentions on letting it remain as such, But I would have to say, honestly, no, I did not know we were 3rd. If anything, I've been focused on the fact that we're like dead last in the country as it relates to public education.
And healthcare and mental health services and dental care.
Yes.
So I do want to, in 2018, Gillum, a young Black man, embarked on this journey. It's not lost on me that he embarked on this journey without support from the Democratic Party, and even without a lot of infrastructure, and he became the Democratic nominee. And so, in spite of all of the challenges, and in spite as being perceived as having a seat that was not winnable, not only did he become the nominee, so I'm going to put on record they cheated. And even in spite of them cheating, and we know this, even just by Palm Beach County, the number of ballots that we saw that disappeared. So I want to be very clear about that. And that's Chanae speaking. Other people are like, oh, I'm going to speak truth. Even outside of that, even if they did not cheat and we go with the actual results, which because we're the polite ones, we do that, still was only about 30,000 votes. And in a state this size, with the number of registered voters, that's so minute, it took us into a recount. And so my question to you is, what does the historical context of being the first Black female governor of our state mean to you? And how would that affect the changes you will make for the people of our state? And I'm asking that question because of 2018. I do believe what you're doing is absolutely doable.
Thank you. It might sound silly. I don't let myself actually sit in that aura or in that energy or in that spirit often, because I find myself just so focused on the campaign. But I do understand, and I am aware of what my running means to many people across this state. I remember being younger than what I am now and voting for Mr. Gillum. And when I was working at the African American Research Library and Cultural Center, he visited our location. I remember I had a shirt and everything. And I also remember how so many people, including myself, had felt like the same hope that we had seen when President Obama had ran. And it just felt like, okay, just despite what was taking place at the federal level, maybe there was just something that we could hold on to here in Florida. And when the outcome was what it was absolutely disheartening and it was disappointing. Because the percentage was so small, as you mentioned, that it triggered that automatic recount. I would say that it's definitely very big shoes to be in when someone says, and they remind me that, hey, you're running, and if you should win, you would be not just the first governor of this state that is Black or African American, but also the first female, so the first Black woman. It's so important because that saying of no taxation without representation, right? If we kind of loosely apply that in this situation where more of us need to be able to see our leaders, and when we look at them, we see ourselves. And I remember going to an event sometime in 2025 where I had someone bring that up to me, and they said, no matter how you look at myself, that in some way, shape, or form, you're able to identify. And that does something to not even just a community and a society, but even just a person. When I see people send me messages and they say, well, you've inspired me to go run for school board, or you've inspired me to go and do this, right? And I'm like, me? I understand how it's a full circle moment in the sense of we work so hard as people, and especially as Black people, and to see that there are still systemic barriers in place, there's still red tape in place, there's still active movement legislatively and legally to just continue to strip away at we, the people. It's like, why? I had did an interview during Miami Beach Pride and different contexts, but I was being asked a question: if you had one message to give to the legislature in Tallahassee about the LGBTQIA plus community, what would you say? And my question was, why are you so afraid? What about me? makes you so afraid, like the color of my skin. And it's a shame that we're still here in 2026, right? So I understand the gravity. I understand the weight. I understand the meaning. I don't take it lightly. I am very proud. I'm very honored in the most humble and way possible, with a ton of humility, in the sense of my mom would never let me be, get big headed. Donna would be like, absolutely not. My mom keeps me very, very grounded. And so I think having that as my grounding core and my foundation, it helps me to understand that I am doing this for 23.7 million people. I'm doing this for working people of this state. I know that I'm doing this for the Black community within the state. I'm doing this for my students, for them to be able to say, if they want to, when they turn 30 years old, yeah, I want to run for Florida governor. And I absolutely can, because I have that right. And we see that there are people trying to say that we don't have that right, or I don't have that right, or Mr. Gillum didn't have that right. But no, we absolutely do. And so I've had my reservations about, should we become victorious after the primary elections, when people come, quote unquote, knocking at our door? How would I handle that? Because right now there are leaders within the FDP who have been vocal, saying that you all should be more equitable when it comes to the gubernatorial candidates, but instead they continue to focus on the two gentlemen that they consider being the forefront leaders. But we have 52.3% registered Democrats who don't even have any kind of faith, belief, or hope that one of these two men will, A, beat Byron Donalds, and B, actually stand by for the people of this state, especially when you try to make yourself as conservative as you possibly can be, but yet still saying, I am a Democrat. So I hope that myself running as being potentially the first Black woman to be governor of Florida continues to provide people with hope, and knowing that no matter what is thrown our way, we'll still rise. We will always rise.
I love that you named number one, the number of residents in Florida. A lot of people don't understand how powerful that is.
Yes.
Also, two, to even name that although we're this closed primary state, where the only way you can participate in the primary election is you need to be registered as a Democrat or Republican, a third of the electorate is now NPA, which means they don't feel represented by each party. And so that means something. So wanting people to see that part. So I wanted just to lift that up. And also I loved, and it tickles me that you call Andrew Mr. Gillum. So
well, my mom,
Mr. Gillum. It's so official. Yeah.
Well, I have to be respectful, but because my mom would, no. That's the other thing, full discourse. My family came to this country from the island of Jamaica as well. So it's like a double type of strict that I had to grow up with in my household. So
one of the questions, one of our final questions, which is a question that we ask every guest that we bring on. We on this podcast pride ourselves in knowing that in order to make sure that all are taken care of, that you have to really look at the least in that situation. And so with that, we know and understand that we are the most targeted community, meaning the Black community. We're the most targeted community within this, not just this country, but within this state. And so our question to you is, which is our final question, what is your vision of a Florida where Black people are able to live in freedom, equity, and authenticity?
My vision for Florida would, number one, it would be myself as governor. But number two, making sure that the House and the Senate in Tallahassee no longer was Republican led, but it was, even if it's just like 50-50, my God, but just a more of a Democratic majority. And making sure that we have laws that are in place that I mentioned before are equitable and inclusive. So we don't have a rent control ban in place so that local governments can govern the way that they need to ensure that they're addressing the affordability crisis within their municipalities, to ensure that we don't have something like the SAVE Act that is being made Florida edition here, where it's like, yet again, another layer of red tape to prevent us from being able to vote and show up to the polls. Ensuring that we have the resources in place to help our most vulnerable communities. And I say that because just today, I visited a clinic in Opelika, and this clinic is actually not ran and led by any governmental aid. It's by the people of that community, all of their funding. They are completely people powered, people forward, people centered. And it resonated with me because people who go to this clinic, they must be uninsured, but then they have access to a myriad of different services, whether it's general practitioner, whether it's an eye doctor, whether it's a heart doctor, whether it's a pediatrician, whether it's to have a full workup for STI or STD testing, right? Just to ensure that those resources are in place for that community. And so what I hope for us as a state is that we're able to offer the same, but on a more widespread scale, where we can see that we have a governor and a state legislature that supports local government to ensure that the resources are in place for our vulnerable and marginalized communities so that they're able to thrive, not survive, and embark on a path to what we call creating generational wealth. So within, for example, like our affordability pillar and for affordable housing, what we intend on is looking at things from a renter perspective and homeowner perspective. And one thing that we want to embark on are community land trusts so that, well, families can buy a home at a significantly cheaper price, but then it bridges them to actual generational wealth where they can still save up money and purchase a home where they actually just don't own the home, but the land as well. And then it can be passed down from one generation to the next and to the next. And so I hope that after this year, it's not like we're going to see the page completely turn and it's a brand new book, but it's just that first step that needs to happen. And then we take the next step and the next step until we can finally get to that place where we truly have equity and we're not ostracized for, well, just looking different than the other side. We'll say it like that.
It is a joy to speak to a gubernatorial candidate who I feel as though has a sincere concern for the people of this state.
Yeah.
And a sincere concern to make sure that the people of this state are well taken care of and given a better future that we can all share in and enjoy. And so I really want to thank you for giving us this time and this opportunity to come through and to just, give us a peek into who you are and just how you're moving along in this campaign. And once June the 5th hits, we are.
No, yes. And I will. So just to give an idea, our state tour, we start in June, but we'll still be here in South Florida. And that's just me every day being in Palm Beach, Broward, and Dade. And then as we move into July, those first weeks of July, I'll be in North Florida, predominantly Jacksonville. And then the second 2 weeks of July will be in Central Florida, primarily Orlando. After that, once we get into those first few weeks of August, it's kind of just like wherever I need to be, I will be. But I'm excited. I cannot wait to meet the people of this state, but in areas that I have not been to yet. I have people asking me, are you going to come here? Are you going to come here? You know, and so as we finalize our lineup, I'm just excited to let people know where we're going to be and, you know, who we might have with us as we embark on, you know, the tour. And that way they can just plan their summer accordingly and show up and ignite the blue flame.
And let
And then
everybody.
also,
No, go ahead.
I
Sir.
just before he closes, I also want to help. In a statewide race.
Okay.
Be deliberate about a distributed program. One thing that the Democratic Party teaches us how to do when running elections is to only go into like these 10 primary areas. Florida is 67 counties. Most of the Black people are in North Florida. And so they miss huge opportunities. And when I state that, well, and I'm just speaking from strategy because it's one thing that we are doing. Like set your counties up. Yes, those 10 counties are your tier 1 priority all in. But you can set up where it's a phone banking operation in like the more rural counties. It's valuable. People will pay attention like, oh, they took the time, I got a phone call and they respond differently because no one ever values them in any kind of way. And it's those votes and things that will put you over the top. So I want to state like that. And being a person who runs campaigns, I've only lost 2 out of 32. So I know a little bit. So I want to name that for you.
Well, I'll let you know we need a campaign manager, but
already working on the campaign as the director.
But we definitely are not overlooking the districts that are normally forgotten. And so that is embedded within our campaign strategy. And we absolutely, no one will be forgotten for sure.
Absolutely. And to say all that to say, although I'm working on a campaign as a director, that particular person, which is, I'm going to say, is U.S. Senate candidate Angie Nixon. She is a person that is for the people. I recommend having a conversation with her. Even on tomorrow, like her and Bernard Taylor, he is joining her on the town hall that she is doing.
Well, tell her to call me back. Because I messaged her on Signal. I had left her a voice message. I still haven't heard back from her.
I'll get you connected, girl. She got Signal. Okay. You know, So I will get your contact information from Jamil. And I tell people like my recommendation is figuring out how to leverage like those relationships. It's what the other side does. It may be that you're taking some of her lid, she's taking some of your lid at doors. It may be that she's giving you some strategy like calling the DECs to see who's willing to take your lid out for you. It's like those things that we share in this journey.
Thank you.
The joy.
Yes.
The joy.
And we are planning. Oh, also, I will state to you where I will definitely recruit and see there is a Black Women for Angie Town Hall on May the 14th. And so even there may be an opportunity for you to actually come in and have some comments on that particular virtual town hall.
Okay.
The joy of having a strategist on your team for these podcasts. No, seriously. But no, thank you. Thank you once again for joining us and giving us the opportunity to really dig deep into your campaign. I'm highly anticipating this summer tour and seeing how from a personal.
I'm excited, but what I'm more so, I'm definitely also excited just to publish our agenda. Like once I get that out there, I will breathe a little bit more because I know that's just what people are looking for. So I'm about to just post it.
And tell us once again, for those that will be watching this episode, where can they find you at?
So you can visit us at our website, fosterforflorida.com. You can also visit us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. Oh my God. I just showed that I'm a millennial. because I still call X Twitter. But it's all Foster for Florida, except for X. It's Foster and then the number 4 and then Florida. We post a lot of our content on TikTok and Instagram, and also some things on our website as well. Our donation link is on our website. It's a bright yellow button as well. And so we just tell everyone, if you're just able to donate $5, it'll help just to ensure that for this summer, I'm able to travel all across the entire state. And I'm very firm on meeting the people where they're at. And I'm not trying to necessarily bring the people to me. No, I'm meeting the people where they are.
That's a joy, and I appreciate you once again. And we also appreciate you all for allowing us the opportunity to show y'all love and appreciation for joining us on this BLKFLA experience. So as always, stay free, stay blessed, and continue to get acquainted with greatness. We are out.
You know, truth there on mind, try to bring it to you. If revolution was a movie, I'd be theme music. Time to ignite what I spit is lighter fluid. Stepping into it, fixed rays, such a glorious design. Marching into the biggest fight of our lives. Time to spoil the revolution.